It's 24 degrees centigrade here in Abuja. Well, humidity dropped this time to 30% sometimes. So how does that happen? But there's quite, showers in some areas, depending on where you are. But nonetheless, lovely scenery as we always see here these days. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sunrise Daily today. I'm Chamberlain. What's up?
Well, that's the skyline from Mabushi Burger here in Abuja, greeting your screen. Abuja is not beautiful. I mean, you cannot just but see the beauty in Abuja every time you look at the skyline. Mabushi is where the Ministry of Works and Housing is situated, leading up all the way to Jabi, where you have a park, where you have a lake. You also have residential and shopping district in that particular area, but that's what you're seeing right there on your screen. Good morning and welcome. I'm Maufa Ogunyusu.
And in Lagos, we take you here. Yes, this is CMS area in Lagos, and the major road artery there is the Broad Street in Lagos. For those of you who don't know, CMS, okay, let me just ask you, what does CMS mean? Let me save you the hassle. It just means Christian Missionary Society. It was a very highly influential organization during Nigeria's colonial period. But now this is CMS, and that building, which one can you even see? But it houses a good number of corporate organizations and major headquarters of banks in Nigeria. Good morning. This is Lagos. Humidity is in the region of 90%. The weather is looking like 28%. I'm Ayo Makinde, and welcome to Sunrise Daily.
All right, let's go ahead and tell you some of the things you may get to see much later today. You know, after all these calls about what do we do about developing the standard or improving the standard of education in this country such that it's not just paper qualification, but skill sets. Very strategic and important skill set. But this time, who knows? The National Commission for Secondary School Education will be having some meeting today about the strategic plan for that sector. So many will be looking to see that they don't just talk the talk, they've got to walk the talk. So all of these policies they bring in, because those days when you had all quality education, technical ones too, for all sorts of schools, federal colleges, unity schools, missionary schools, whichever one. We need to get our standards better than it was, even at that time, I might add.
Indeed, Chamberlain, I had calls to, it's happening today. We're not supposed to discuss it, but I can't help but mention this. The fact that I had calls to speak with the Minister of Education, Tahir Maman, on hard copy, which will be airing later tonight. And he was talking about how his biggest worry right now, is the fact that a lot of people cannot exactly cannot read and write. And that when they can, these are people who are in school, and that when they can, it is very difficult for them to understand what it is that they're reading and writing. He says, this is right now the problem from secondary school levels downward, and it's something that is a big burden on the Ministry of Education. So definitely that should be something that should be of importance to them. Yeah. But looking at the second happening today, it is the fact that the customs, Nigerian customs, is beginning rice auction at various commands today. We understand that rice is going to be going for as low as 10,000 naira for 25 kilograms. 25 kilogram bag. I know that there were plans, it had been announced before now, that there are plans to try to crash the price of rice in the market, and the Nigerian Customs was going to be intervening at about 50 kilogram bag was going to be selling for 20,000 naira. Now, whether this is going to really affect the price is unclear. Where they've gotten the price from, it was all the rice that was seized from people who brought them in illegally. People who brought them in and were not willing to pay customs duties. The Nigeria Customs has seized them, and they're now selling them to the public today at this highly subsidized price. Do you think it's going to change the price of anything, James?
Well, I'm not sure I want to hold my breath. And I guess we'll just wait and see the outcome of some of these things, even though I have huge concerns about the standard ops of customs, particularly when it has to do with custom duties. I think it bears repetition how one thinks that the customs can actually slash, because all of those containers and goods and things that are at the ports waiting to be cleared because of the challenges they've got, slashed your rates by 25%. You will see several people trooping in there to clear their wares. And government will in turn rack up a lot of cash with which they can carry out other functions, as opposed to some individuals just allowing those things stand out there, stay there for demurrage, or sometimes they expire. It has its own impact on businesses.
Indeed.
They will struggle, some are shutting down. How can you make revenue when businesses are shutting down? How can government policy be right when government is making more money than the private sector? That certainly is not a good policy. You don't need any soothsayer to tell you that one. So they need to ensure that companies do better so they can employ more people, as opposed to government waiting on revenue, increasing customs revenue, and then taxing so many people. It doesn't work that way. It shouldn't be the case. You are not in competition with the private sector. That's not the way it should be. Well,
I was one discussing. That's a whole lecture for Nigeria Customs.
Well,
Ayo, will you be bidding for the rice? Do you think you might be able to get a hold of a 25-kilogram bag for
Let's just stick.
perhaps?
Let's just stick with what you began with, Mark, where the fact that will it affect the price of rice? Well, it will in some way, because if some people who can afford to buy off the containers actually do get them, what's to say that they're not going to sell them at 70,000, 75,000 naira themselves in the market? But hey, what do I know really about business? I'm talking about business at the top of the hour at 10 o'clock. This will be our focal point, attracting foreign direct investment amidst harsh economic realities. Now, maybe and hopefully this will also speak to some of the issues you raised, Chamberlain, about the functions of customs in all of these. Government has no business in government. Government has no business in business, they say, but then the organized private sector is wondering exactly how government wants to make money when it is making the business environment harsher for the people. Maybe this conversation will also speak to that issue you raised, Chamberlain. I guess time will tell. Now, is it a good time for us to switch to the papers today?
all right, look at this. Just look at this. It's on the front page of Vanguard today. They're talking solutions this time. You know how headlines will come up, all sorts of things, but this particular one, yeah, you can take it as close to you as possible wherever you are if you have a hard copy. How Nigeria can overcome insecurity. Guess who? It's coming from retired generals, DIGs, security experts. There's need for teamwork among government, security agencies, citizens. Blame corruption for worsening insecurity. Call for state police investment in intelligence gathering. Train, equip, pay police officers, other security agents well. Track down political leaders backing criminals. So it appears point blank on the front page of Vanguard today.
How Nigeria can overcome insecurity. That's certainly something that everybody should be interested in.
Yeah.
The Guardian has this for you, and look at that. 15 years of insurgency. Tales of war for survivors. Joy for repentant terrorists. That's the lead story on the front page of The Guardian. It's their big story this morning. They've done a special for you, showing you total number of IDPs, IDPs in the Northeast, how many households are affected, number of people killed by terrorists, total number of repentant terrorists, those who have been de-radicalized, and those who have graduated from the Malam Sidi camp in Gombe State. Essentially, trying to say, when we ask terrorists to repent and made a new life for them, what about those whose lives were, severely affected as a result of the activities of these people?
Yeah.
That's a big question on the front page of the Guardian newspapers. Ayo.
We greatly undervalue the value of mental health, I dare say, from that story. The lead story of the Nigerian Tribune this morning is a response of sorts, guys. We've been talking about this for some time, and the response has come from one of the governors, and that's it on the front page. Food crisis. FG didn't give states 30 billion naira each. Makinde replies Akpabio. Finally, we're hearing the governor's talk. Yay! Stories on page 3 says FG demanding refund of 2 billion naira palliative from states. Well, that's the lead story of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Well, is there going to be more brickbats? I don't know. Time will tell. That's the lead story of the Nigerian Tribune today.
Well, how about leadership here today? The front page of Leadership Friday this morning. Hardship. Protesters loot truckloads of foodstuff in Niger. Go beyond promises, supporters tell president. Customs begin sale of seized rights, other items. National Economic Council targets price relief. So you got several of them there on the front page here this morning.
I think Daily Trust is also emphasizing this bad behavior we're saying. I mean, people should not, you can protest, but to start stealing food belonging to other people who are also trying to eke a living in this condition, that's certainly not acceptable.
Yeah.
Daily Trust is emphasizing that hardship, youth attack trucks, steal food items in Niger State. That's basically what it is. You're steal food items in Niger. Police stop protest against hunger in Jigawa. Dikwa residents threaten to join insurgents. Nigerians interested in practical solutions, not theories. That's according to Vice President Shatima. The story is on page 4 of the paper for you. They also have pictures showing you what happened at Suleja along the Abuja-Kaduna Expressway yesterday. Let's leave it there for Daily Trust. I am.
The lead story of the Daily Times is also reiterating that Makinde story. Hardship. Makinde tackles Akpabio over FG's 30 billion naira gift to states. Stories on page 4 of the Daily Times newspaper today.
And then we also have this Nigeria. I'm not sure we've done that halfway. Ado drama intrigues as APC, PDP pick candidates in global primaries. Did you say today? Well, that was yesterday actually. Okay. Yeah.
I'm taking a look at New Telegraph for you. And the New Telegraph has this on the front page. Arewa Economic Forum to Tinubu, reinstate subsidy, remove governors from palliative chain. That's the lead story on the front page. How's that going to work? I don't know. That's what the headline is saying. As hardship worsens, Tinubu, no going back on reforms, tackling poverty. Governors not aware of additional 30 billion naira allocation. That's according to Governor Makinde. We're on trial. Anytime naira is on trial. That's according to the CBN. Urges patience, promises imminent relief. Adopt participatory governance. Catholic bishops urge Tinubu. Political leaders say Nigeria descending to chaos, anarchy. Well, I think that they also have a duty to pray. Pray that we don't get there. Pages 2, 3, 7, 8, and 29 will give you all of the details on the lead story and its writers. That's it for New Telegraph.
The Nigerian Observer is talking politics this morning, and it is giving a response to those primaries I held yesterday. Edo 2024. Igodalo beats 10 aspirants to emerge PDP candidate. Preaches unity, pledges to lead state on path of prosperity. Akhalame to fly ZLP flag as LP holds primary today. APC holds fresh primary in 192 wards across 18 local government areas. That story is on page 2 of the Nigerian Observer this morning.
Okay, let me just take a look at some of the issues here. The front page of Vanguard, clearly talking about solution. And so when you have persons, retired generals, DIGs, security experts, I mean, almost a lot of people who you ask will tell you they've got an idea of what needs to be done. But why this is not the case is where the big question is in terms of operationalizing some of these things. Because even the last time out, much as the Vanguard is giving us that expose here today about security, and several other dailies too talking about security. For instance, when you see Leadership Friday talking about protesters looting truckloads of food, all of these have their implications. Because, for instance, if they continue doing this or do it 1, 2, or 3, 4, 5 times, and this truckload of food stops going to this area, what then happens? They put themselves into a very serious bind because there'll be a lot more challenge and hunger there. Then they begin, so they all have the implications. So we can't understate it or overstate it, the implication of security. Those who are occupying people's farms, what are agencies doing to get them out in order to avert food crisis in the country? So these are things that we just saw coming. But what we did is the big question about all of these things.
Well, indeed, Chamberlain. Two stories I'd like to highlight, but also just to mention that on the front page of Business Day, they have this major rate hike expected as MPC meeting holds on Monday. So the MPC is expected to meet on Monday, and it does appear that interest rates might be going up in response to that. But looking at two stories which we'll highlight on the front page of The Guardian this morning, where it talks about the elite story, which is around insurgency and what's happening there. But look at this. Fresh worries for Naira as FAC shares 1.149 trillion Naira to federal government, states, and local government areas.
Oh dear.
So it does appear that there's going to be much more money in circulation. And, you know, what we've heard so far, and which we also need the governors. I mean, we heard Governor Makinde responding to Senate President saying that there's no 30 billion Naira given to states each. We also need to confirm if it is true that when these allocations are done, the governors hit the BDCs, you know, pressuring the Naira even further by looking for dollars which they change their allocations into. And that is what exactly is mounting pressure on the Naira. That's what we're hearing from BDCs. They are saying it behind the scenes. Those who know are also saying it behind the scenes. Is it possible for governors to respond to this grievous allegation being leveled against them, that they are the ones actually causing the woes of the Naira? They're contributing in a very significant way to it.
You know, a couple of things we might like to see happen in that regard is we'll watch and see if the Naira will take a hit against the dollar when this is done.
Exactly.
And anytime this is done, we'll watch and see the trajectory. And secondly, I mean, we've heard several people suggest moving forward, way forward, CBN, digitize those processes. Let us see which money is going where. Trace it, follow the money. Yes, personal interest may suffer, but the national interest is more important than personal interest. So if we do that, I think we might be able to track some of this and find out what's really going on. Why is the dollar tanking? I mean, the Naira against dollar.
So page 6 is where you'll find details, and I think Chamberlain's suggestion, you're really spot on. Let's see what happens after this allocation is done. Will the Naira take a further hit as a result? But there are many people who are needing dollars. I mean, look at what is happening right now. This is on the front page of New Telegraph. FX scarcity. Airline operators may shut down soon, says Okonkwo. I don't think that is something that will be a pretty scenario. I hope that we do something about it to get those who really need this FX to, you know, find a source for them, a legitimate and a legal source for them to be able to run their businesses. Ayo.
Well, it's a very touchy one, you know, and as far as I'm concerned, all of this conversation border around communication. The front page of the Daily Trust newspaper speaks volumes. You know, Mark, when you and I and Chamberlain were bantering over it, you know, it looked like indeed what these young men are doing, what these youths are doing is stealing. It is improper. Youths attacking trucks, stealing food items in Niger. Two things come to my mind. Number one, there is intelligence, right? So how come we didn't get ahead of this? And these are investments that have gone down the drain. Number two is that this is communication. This is the young people telling the federal government and the state governments, including the local governments, one thing or the other. Are we listening? That's my take from the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper today.
Well, your take takes us to take a break, but we'll be back afterwards, so stay on with us.
I thank the good people of Edo State. Last 4 months, I've got to even meet them more. Resilient people, brilliant people, hardworking, visionary, focused, willing to move our state into prosperity. I'm only a tool in this process. And I promise you all that I will be a useful tool in this process. Edo State, by God's grace, will move from where Godwin Obaseki has carried us to the next level.
All right, so we do have the Deputy Governor joining us this morning, His Excellency Philip Shoaibu. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for having me.
Well, yesterday we also did hear you speak about these primaries at some point. So now talk to us about this. You say that you are the candidate who emerged from another primary, and that was the basis upon which you spoke to journalists. So could you tell us, how is that? What actually happened? Because many thought that the primaries that was irrelevant, that was observed by INEC, was the one that was televised. So how could you explain you saying you emerged as the candidate of another primary?
Yeah, thank you once again. I'm not saying I emerged. I won the election. And how did I win the election? The authentic delegates that are elected to vote the governorship as voted Comrade yesterday as the PDP candidate. So that's what has happened. I didn't declare myself winner of an election. Delegate voted for me. And if you have to look at what happened in some universities, that is cosmetic primaries. You cannot carry permanent circumstances, aids, personal aids, to a venue and say, come and vote for an aspirant. That was what happened to the side.
How did you come to the conclusion that those who were said to be delegates who voted in that primary were personal aides?
Yeah, because the authentic delegates are those that were elected during the adult delegate election. And on the 4th of this month. So those ones voted for me yesterday. They were disenfranchised because they were not going to vote for the governor's preferred candidate. So they decided to hold their primaries and they voted. So
at what point did those delegates who participated in the primary, which you said you won, when did that delegate election hold?
Yesterday. It held yesterday morning or through the afternoon. Your media men were there, and I'm sure they will have given you all the reports of how it all started from when they were not accredited at the McVeigh Center, the media wing, and they protested. And after all the protests, they insisted that people have to represent them in Samaloguna, and they said no. Nobody can represent them. They are the authentic delegate, and they must vote.
Well, sorry.
So you
please
cannot,
explain again.
You cannot,
are you saying that the delegate election held yesterday afternoon, and then the primaries also held yesterday?
No. The primaries held yesterday. The delegate election was on the 4th. Yeah, on the 4th of February. On the 4th of February. That was the delegate election that produced these delegates that elected us. Me, particularly yesterday.
So, if that process which you participated in was the valid one, we also do remember that about 9 of you at the time had protested and issued a statement disagreeing with the processes that were leading to that election. So if this one you participated in was the right one, how come we didn't see Anselm Ojezua there, but we saw him in the one that was televised?
Yeah, yesterday, we actually, from day one, and I still stand for it, that the process of the primaries was faulty. And we went to the appeal panel, and you heard it very loud, the governor and others, so the primaries held and everything. And we insisted that the process not followed. Yesterday, a group of delegates came out and said, we won that primaries you are talking about. I mean, that delegate election you are talking about. And this is our names. And this is our results. And our name is there. You must accredit us. And they said no. And these guys got angry and said, no, you cannot replace us with other people. We are the authentic delegates. And we must vote. And they voted yesterday and they voted for me. So it's the confusion. You see, when there's leadership failure, that is what you get. We have serious gaps as far as leadership is concerned. And that is why this confusion. And I can bet you that I am not a desperate person. And so I will not be desperate to be governor of Ogun if my people are not insisting. Those delegates insisted that they must have their election yesterday. They had their election. They voted for me. Simply, going forward, there are a lot of things I will not be able to speak to you because there are a lot of confidentiality. Because most of these things will be caught, and I will not want to go and reveal a lot at there.
Okay, so if they were aggrieved, they wanted to participate in the process that was televised, but they didn't allow them, then they came and then held these other ones, and you said they're the valid delegates. Who were the officials that conducted that one?
Yeah, part of the officials that were sent by the national to conduct yesterday's election, the one that shot. And those that declared me winner are part of this came for the election. And those who insisted that, no, I cannot be a rubber stamp, I cannot be a committee that will be purchased to go and endorse an election that they know is cosmetic. There's a committee that was set up by the national. So part of the committee went on the other side. The other one came to the authentic primaries, which produced me. So it was not state functionaries that declared me. Those that were sent by the national, the winner. They conducted the primary and declared me winner.
Okay, so I'm just trying to, understand the dynamics of how this works. You have said that the candidates, or beg your pardon, the people who emerged from the congresses, who won, the delegates who emerged from the congresses, went to the venue, the decided venue of where these primaries were supposed to take place, and were prevented. They were not accredited, and they got angry and they left. That's what you've said. So I'm wondering whether the venue and the officials and the officialdom surrounding a particular area isn't important in all of this.
I think it is this court that will. I don't want to really go into things I know will be going to court. It's the court and the party appeal panel that will be determining this, because you cannot ask that. First, those that sent the circular for the process of the election yesterday, the National Organizing Secretary of the state does not have the right to do that. It's not in his power to. It's not in his power to organize that. The national that organizes the governorship primaries. So, ab initio, all of the organizations were fought against the rules and regulation of the party. So, everything that took place yesterday was organized by the state arm of PDP. And that contradicts our agreement at the stakeholders meeting in Wadata Plaza, And that also contradicts our constitution that says it is the national that organizes the election. And we have told the national, you cannot will your right to the state because the state is partisan. The government is supporting Agsua Godaro. The state chairman of the party is supporting Agsua Godaro. And they have made statements and they've gone campaigning and they've funded. So you cannot will your right to a partisan person, somebody that taking side. That we've been saying all the while. And the organizing secretary was the one, state organizing secretary, Tony Anini Jr., was the one. I have the circular he sent to us. And I said, no, you don't have the right to do this. It is a national. So the national officials are the one that are given the right by the constitution of PDP to organize governorship primaries. And this national executive that were appointed by nationals took part from the beginning to the end of the primaries that this year. And the delegate protested yesterday, and nobody heard them. And they protested even to my house, and I told them I was going to reach out to the leadership that was set up by the national. I did reach out to them, and it was obvious that some of them were compromised. And those that were not compromised said, look, we will not go with these people, and we'll get back. And I was told that, look, the primaries were going to be taking place. And I went, and I was elected by the authentic. What is key is that who are those that elected the governor's preferred candidate as well? And who are those that elected Philip Shaibu? I think in the coming days, we will know who among them are authentic. And I saw the figure. I saw the figures that they are as well getting 507 something or so, and Philip Shaibu getting 1. You will know that when I say it's cosmetic, that is results. And in the coming days, I will not reveal. You will see, by the time we give you the breakdown of those that voted, you see that it's all an arranged thing. And I'm surprised at.
Okay, so you have said that there was a state, the national seems to have abdicated its duty, but the returning officer yesterday at the one that was televised is the current governor of Zamfara State, Dauda Lawal. He was the one who announced Mr. Aswani Godalo as the candidate of the PDP in that, and we also saw beside him Senator James Manager. Wouldn't that be a representation? Would you say that someone at the level of a governor can be compromised in a primary setting?
Yes. I said, yeah, they can be compromised. Compromise is different from compromise. Can be money induced. Compromise can be influence. Compromise also can be association based. The governor of Zamfara will have done solidarity with his colleague, governor of Augusta. So when I say compromise, that compromise are in different stages. Some are compromised by inducing them with money, which we have had. You know, there was this speculation of $2 million that was given to the national to do the primaries, alleged. It's not confirmed. And we know some of these things. So there are some of these things that we are deep in it and we know how it flows. So the governor may not be compromised financially, but is a member of the PDP Governors Forum. So the alliance will be there to maybe to support his colleague to do what he wants, to achieve what he wants. So humans are in different stage. And you can see even our opposition party, you can see this. So I think they should not reduce the office of the governor, all these primaries and everything. I think going forward, they should make.
So initially, you had taken objection with the fact that the state organizing committee was the one doing this, and you said the national cannot abdicate their responsibility. It is the responsibility of the PDP national to organize these primaries. However, you still wanted to be a part of the process. If the delegates who were your own supporters, had they been allowed to be a part of this, would it have made this legal?
If the authentic delegate were in Samuel Ogbonnia Stadium yesterday, of course, all of us will participate in the same venue. But an attempt to make the authentic delegate not participate, it's already, whatever comes out of such a process is going to be illegal and nobody will accept it. Even in court, it will be thrown away. I think PDP should be extremely careful with Edo. They should be extremely careful. And why I'm saying so is that let us not get to a process where PDP may not even field a candidate in this election. Because the processes, including that of yesterday, a lot of issues are there that we need to address, which I will not want to speak in public. I am worried, really. I'm really worried that I'm seeing leadership gap in the process of the primaries and all these programs. It's something that is really of concern to me.
At what point would you say that the delegate controversy was sorted? Because I do recall that when Congress is held, we heard that 9 out of 10 candidates came out to say that, look, the Congresses that held did not represent what happened. And there were huge objections taken with how the governor of Enugu State had conducted the Congresses. And I think also the governor of Taraba State, who said to the best of his knowledge, those Congresses were free and fair. So at what point would you say that your own, these delegates who support you emerged and, you know, all the complaints that 9 out of 10 aspirants had were eventually sorted?
I don't want to go deep. The Congresses are conducted by His Excellency, the Enugu State Governor, was marred with irregularities. Along the line, we will discover that there are still men and women of integrity that refuse to be compromised during that Congress. If you go to PDP National Secretariat this morning, you will see the authentic delegates list being pasted in front of the PDP Secretariat. The court has asked that those lists be published. The National Working Committee, through its agent, refused to publish those particular results until the court has asked them now to publish it. And they have been pasted in front of the office of the National Secretariat. And we are discovering all that has happened. Maybe some of them did not, maybe some of them have the integrity, and maybe some of them, whatever they needed to give them, we didn't get to them. You cannot have a result where one person will sign 192 words. You cannot have such result. Now, the real result is now out, where the officials that are meant to conduct the primaries sign those results, original results, counterfeit. Now, they are already shocked when those results came out a day before the primary. They are shocked, and they are taken aback. There are a lot of things that are going on that I won't say in public. But as we move on, Malkwe, you will see that the primaries that took place yesterday, what make it legal and constitutional and the authentic is because those that are supposed to be those to voted in primaries that, and those are the delegates that won their primaries during the Congress in their various wards.
You know, we've heard you say that you're not desperate to be governor of Edo State, but at the same time, if that process that was televised had gone your way, you would not have done this other one, would you?
If the delegates, first, if the process from when Enugu governor came and all the processes follow our rules and regulation, and I will be in that stadium, if I win, fine. If I don't win, I will congratulate the winner and work with the winner. I'm somebody that I'm a team player. Even the governor knows I'm a team player, and I'm loyal to friendship and loyal to my work. I am somebody that believes in team play and teamwork, and that is why 9 of us insisted that the processes must be followed, and there are issues with these processes. Why? Because we want PDP to have a candidate. I want PDP to produce one of us, and all of us, we follow that person. And we're consistent about it. So, Chimbili, you cannot have 9 persons saying one thing against one, and that one is right against the other 9. It doesn't make any sense.
But it turns out
whereas,
that all 9 of them were not in the primary that you said that you won.
Chamberlain, I won't tell you what we have agreed and what we do. Those that went to the primaries, there are reasons for going there. By the time these processes start, know that even those that went to the stadium, there was a reason for their going to the stadium. And we were part of the reason why they went there.
Oh, but Mr. Ighodalo says he's going to reach out to everybody, perhaps including yourself. So if he does reach out, first of all, has he reached out to you yet?
Chamberlain, you see, democracy is all about inclusion. Democracy is about respect. I, the winner of these primaries, I've already sent my team. I'm sure by now they will have reached out. They told me that Ighodalo was granting interview. I've sent a message that I want to see him so that he can join me. I already have the other eight persons. We are going to be having a meeting this morning, how they will support me. Firstly, I need to bring on board now Ighodalo, and I've sent a message to him, and I got that he was a Rice television program that they cannot reach. So I'm already reaching out to him. Join me so that we'll work together, because I am the authentic candidate. And as we move on, you will realize that. So I want to play a role now of bringing everybody together. And I'm also using the medium to appeal to the governor. He has said that whoever wins among all of us, said that whoever wins among all of us, said that whoever wins among all of us.
Well, Your Excellency, it's interesting that you mentioned the governor just now, because that's the first question on my list to ask you. At this moment, what's your relationship with the governor like?
Yeah, the governor remained my senior brother, senior to me with plenty of years, my senior brother and my boss. That is what it is. He has not been happy that voting his candidate. It's my right to contest an election, and I'm exercising that right. And they have done a lot of negative things. It doesn't really matter. I see it as politics. But what is that I made up my mind. I'm of respect the office of the governor, and I'll continue to respect the office of the governor till the end, whether as deputy or as any other. So the relationship is not cordial. I can tell you that, but it's not from my own end; it's from his own end. Because I've made attempts to bridge the gap, it doesn't allow it. I've called him more than 100 times. It doesn't take. Even in public function, I don't think it does. So, because I have made up my mind that I must exercise my rights. We don't have any differences. We never had any problem. The only problem we had is, why are you protesting? You must not protest because I have a Ighodalo that I want to bring. And for me, he has the right to support Ighodalo, but I also have the right to contest. And that right is what I'm exercising. And this right, really, is not out of desperation by me. I insist. My people insisted that they need an home board. They don't need an outsider again. And the word on the line, they don't need an outsider. They need somebody that they can feel, they can touch, somebody that understands them. And that they don't want to have an outsider.
Well, Your Excellency...
And the word, that is consistent, an outsider. They see Ighodalo as an outsider.
Okay. But, there are those who would also argue that perhaps, this tiff that you have with the governor may have cost you some political capital. Would you say that has happened, that, this issue that you said is between you and the governor has cost you any political capital? Can you hear me, Your Excellency? Okay, well, we'll definitely be getting him back to continue that conversation. Well, Your Excellency, are you back with us?
Yes, I'm back.
Okay.
The people are not happy. Yeah, the people are not happy that the governor relocated the office of the deputy governor to Panos. People are not happy that by 8 months the governor, because the deputy governor is considering election, he stopped funding a constitutional office. People are not happy that he relocated us out of the chapel and arrest and order the arrest of catechists of the church. People are not happy about all those things. And the people are insisting that, Philip, you must contest this. You must. You can see how these delegates, can see in their numbers, came to my house and barricaded my gate yesterday. Even with the gunshot, they were shooting. The vigilantes were ordered to shoot aside. The deputy national state leader and the former vice chairman of APC that decamped alongside the governor was shot yesterday. Was shot by these men of the vigilante. And also, we need to have a conversation on how state police should be, policy should be implemented. We need to have a conversation.
Well, that's definitely.
But with what happened yesterday, we need to look at it deeply.
Okay, Your Excellency, when you talk about your relationship with the governor and the fact that you are exercising your right, and of course rightfully so, but a number of people would also wonder, hey, you've worked together, you literally sacrificed a lot of your political capital for the governor to become, the governor and all of those things. There are those who would say that. There are those who would also say you had your interests all the while. So having had all of that conversation, having had that kind of relationship, why do you think the governor, is not in support of your aspiration?
Well, I really don't know. You see, a leader, I as a leader, I have issues, have a problem. I need to recognize the problem. The first thing I would do is to call my team and look, all my team, and look, this is my thought. You go and find a way these things can work, or give me your thought. And we all sit down, everybody go find his own way of seeing how things can be done. If the governor actually was to play his role as leader that he is, there have been a conversation where, look, I think we need to move this. The next governorship of the state, let's move it to a decentral. And I think this is a reason why I feel we should go to a decentral. All of us, when I start thinking towards that and bringing our own ideas, some that are not interested, some that, but there must be a conversation where all of us, when I say this is the direction and this is the direction, not for somebody to come and say, look, I'm interested in X. You cannot contest. And this is the thing that must be. And all the government funding, all the government machineries, everything. And that you can still do the same if you have that conversation and one of those people that are in that conversation refuses to follow. You allow the person and you can still pull your weight behind whoever you feel you want to support. Oshomole did that. When Oshomole was the governor of the state, he wanted Obasi as the governor. Some of us, including me, felt the present SSG should be the governor. And Oshomole persuaded, had conversation, had meetings. For over 3 months, he was having sales meetings, different things on why he feels Obaseki is better. And I was convinced at the end of the day. And we are to now speak to this SSG, the present SSG, and say, I think Shomole is right. Economy, we need this, we need that. And that was how we all now had to collapse our structure to bring in Obaseki as the governor. If you have the same interest, that is the way to go. You persuade. Politics is about persuasion. Politics is about inclusion. Politics is not if politics is not where you just come and say it must be like this, and if you don't go, get out.
Well, Your Excellency. Okay. Well, we'll definitely get that connection back, and then we'll continue the conversation. In about 5 minutes or thereabout, we'll be going for the business news.
Who are you? Politics, you can't tell anybody that this election is concerned, my brother.
Okay. Well, just one or two other things. Now that this is where we are, and I think Mark asked you a similar question the other time, and you've been talking about the courts. According to media reports, in fact, I think one of the stories on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper, the Daily Trust newspaper has it that Edo governorship, Ighodalo, Shuaibu emerged winners in PDP parallel primaries. That's what the papers are saying. As far as the world is concerned, there are two PDP governorship PDP governorship flag bearers in Edo State at this moment. What are the options before you? Should the court say it's not you? No, let me just ask you straight away. Now, the world believes that there are two of you. What are the options before you? Because there's only one person whose name can be on the ballot as per INEC.
Yeah, the option is for the PDP not to go and argue against my candidate. But if they do that, PDP will lose it because Edo people will not want Asue Ighodalo to be the governor of Edo State because he is not the homeboy they are looking. They are looking for somebody that they know, somebody they can feel, somebody they can touch. That is the question. And PDP have a date with issue. Delegates have spoken that they won't Shuaibu. And I can bet you the other 8 aspirants will support Philip Shuaibu if the party that way. If the party decide to join us in court to argue for Ighodalo, then PDP winning Edo State for PDP will be shaken because Asue will not be accepted.
8. Have the other 8 openly said they are supporting you now?
Don't worry about that. There are a lot of things that are going on the land. So I am the grassroots politician. I am.
But Your Excellency, people need to know where they stand. I mean, so that they can know. I mean, so that they can know where to run to and how to go, how to report these stories.
There's a lot of things that we can't say now because the trade is hot, and there are certain things I cannot tell you now because if I say it, they will understand my strategy.
Oh, but I know you don't want to waste money. Are you going to go on and campaign as the candidate of the PDP?
Timberlane, I'm the candidate of PDP. I'm the candidate, and I have all the instrumentality to campaign, and all my offices are already in all the 18 local. I have 19 offices in Edo State, 2 in Oredo, and 1 in each in all the local. I'm prepared. I'm ready, and
Okay, the connection was just a bit challenging. But just before we go, for those who have listened to you over time and even this morning, they may just wonder, when you say, I mean, when they read and hear about this feud between yourself and the governor, is it because he didn't support you that you say he's not on your side? Is there any specific thing that he did that gave you cause to say he's directly opposing your candidacy?
Yes. All the vehicles that Asue is using, apart from one, they are all government vehicles. Our mega bus have been changed to Asue Ighodalo vehicles. All the security apparatus that is using are all government house security apparatus. All the facilities, even funding is from the government.
You have records of the funding?
I am in government house, don't forget.
Oh.
And yeah. I'm in government, I'm the deputy governor of Edo State, don't forget that. So there's no, and I have been in the system. I was majority leader, a member of Edo State Assembly for 8 years. And I'm deputy governor now for 7 years. So you should know, I understand everybody, all the people in the system, know them. And there's nothing that takes place in government that I don't know. Even when I've been shut out of government, people that work in government have not been shut out.
All right, Your Excellency, Deputy Governor of Edo State. Following that primaries, you say you are the candidate of the People's Democratic Party for the primaries and ahead of the elections. Well, thank you for coming on this morning, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. And by the grace of God, don't worry, I will get everybody on board, including us, all of us together. I will need your advice as far as the community is concerned. And I want to thank you for having me out for Chimbalune.
Ayo.
Ayo, thank you very much.
All right. Okay, then. Okay, so coming up next will be business news on the hour. Let's see, we might have some information about what is the Naira doing this time. Is it floating or what? Should we hold our breath? Where should we turn? Well, business news is up next, yes.
Indeed, it is looking at how she's going to be attracting, or how we're going to be attracting foreign direct investment amidst this harsh economic instance. Ini, what word have you heard so far?
The word out on the street is that it's still really difficult, to attract foreign investors into the country because of the level of uncertainty around the currency and, the policies. But I tell you, you also hear this morning that the United Kingdom is not giving up on Nigeria. They are still looking for ways to foster closer ties when it comes to trade. I wish they would set up here. But I'll tell you all about that. Welcome to Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. I'm John Mekwa. Let's start from the commodity space. That's oil. Globally, it fell on Friday after a U.S. Fed official said that interest rate cuts should be delayed at least 2 more months before indications of healthy demand and concerns over supplies could boost prices in the coming days. Brent crude futures were down 38 cents, that's about 0.5% at $83.29 for a barrel, while US Texas, we see also was down 0.5% at $78.22. US Fed Reserve policymakers should delay interest cuts by at least another couple of months to see if a recent uptick in inflation signals a stalling progress towards price stability or is just a bump in the road. Higher interest rate for longer, slow economic growth, which could curb oil demand in the world's largest oil consumer. But some analysts say demand has remained largely healthy, including in the United States. The United States Central Bank has held its policy rate steady between 5.25% and 5.5% range since last July. And minutes of its policy meeting last month show most central bankers were worried about moving too quickly to ease policy. Still in the global space now for the grain, Chicago corn and soybean futures edge higher on Friday with bargain buying lifting prices after both markets dropped to their lowest levels in 3 years, although plentiful supplies are likely to limit gains. Wheat, we see rose for a second session in supply as on supply gains. As potential U.S. sanctions against top global wheat exporter Russia could hit flows. Wheat we see right there up 0.5% at $5.82 for a quarter of a bushel. Looking at other crops now, corn also was up 0.4% to $4.20 for a quarter of a bushel, having gained almost 1% this week. And then we also see corn and soybean prices drop to their lowest levels since last 2020. Expectations of higher corn and soybeans production in top South American producers as Brazil and Argentina are weighing on Chicago futures. Argentina's corn and soybean crops continue to improve because of recent rains. And Argentina's Rosario Grains Exchange cuts its estimate this week for the country's 2023-2024 soybean and corn harvest. But the 49.5 million metric tons of soy and 57 million metric tons of corn are still a huge improvement from the previous year. We come to Nigeria now. The United Kingdom continues its drive to connect the Nigeria and UK markets. This time, its approach is bringing 9 known businesses from the United Kingdom into Nigeria so the representatives can observe the trade environment, consumers' taste, and connect directly with them. Officials of the Department of Business and Trade Mission have created a platform for exhibition for the invited business, and there's an opportunity for Nigerian business and consumers also to explore and partner with their counterparts from the UK.
So what was meant to be an explorer mission has now turned out to be a proper trade mission where people are building partnerships, people are finding distributors. So it has been very, very positive. The economic realities in Nigeria are not has not changed because of this mission, but then definitely we can see that there's a keen interest. And as I said, I'm with the Department for Business and Trade, and what my department does is facilitate trade between the UK and Nigeria. So for us, this is a welcome establishment. If we can trade, if you can move goods from Nigeria to the UK and you can move goods from the UK to Nigeria, then definitely the economy would become better. In terms of foreign investment, with this particular delegation, definitely we see the possibility of investment from the UK into Nigeria. So take, for instance, for the likes of the retailer like Cartel Watches that are thinking of setting up shop in country. They want to come in country. They want to be able to. That's you putting money into the country, right? We have a brand that is not here today on this mission, but it's a brand that is popular. It's called The Body Shop, and we're working on a partnership. And they're also thinking of coming and setting up shop in Lagos and Abuja. So it's all very positive.
Well, I have to say, setting up shop in Nigeria for trade is different from direct investment, which is setting up the factory right here. That's what Nigeria is asking for. This might just be FPI, just portfolio investment. Anything happens, the shop goes off, and then the owners take away their money. But I'm sure the Nigerian Missions and Trade Investment Ministry are looking into the details of this to ensure that even as the UK comes to Nigeria and they show interest, that it will be for the good of Nigeria's economy and not just, for trade. Now, stakeholders' engagement towards a successful Nigeria energy transition organized by the Nigeria Economic Summit Group alongside the African Climate Foundation. That is another meeting. The meeting calls for attention to the role of private sector in the carbon market as the world moves towards green energy sources. However, the private sector have also been talking, and they say they have challenges which deter an accelerated move to embrace the needed change.
Want to hear, you can't find the women, just Nigeria.
The core message is that the private sector has a significant role to play in climate action in Nigeria, more so than even the public sector. While the public sector is important in setting the targets and the commitments, nothing can be achieved without active involvement of private sector players.
One of the things that we've seen are the challenges that the private sector are facing. We've seen they've mentioned a whole lot in terms of capacity deficiency. So what it implies that there is need for us to develop tailor-made programs that can support them in understanding the landscape so that they can play their role as the players in the sectors.
Yeah, clean energy for everyone. But the hurdles to be crossed are still there. Now let's go to real estate, where real estate and financing experts have identified urbanization and growing middle class in Nigeria as indices that present opportunities for developers and untapped potential for domestic and foreign investors to inject capital into the real estate market. Well, this formed the crux of deliberations at the second edition of the annual WEMA Board 2024 Real Estate Outlook, which was in Lagos. Speakers and participants also say investment diversification, technological innovation, policy reform, and adoption of financing options are some of the strategies that could help industry players navigate the volatility in the real estate markets.
Bankers, investors, real estate, top executives.
For the second consecutive year, WEMABOD, a leading real estate and property development company, pulls together experts in the real estate sector to evaluate the impact of the microeconomy on the industry.
For this 2024 edition,
for WEMABOD, the discourse is important considering economic disruptions and volatility.
The real estate market has struggled due to shortage of investment capital. By implementing sound fiscal and monetary policies and creating a favorable investment climate, we can still attract investors and drive growth.
attention.
In his keynote address, Biodun Adedipe, renowned investment and financial consultant, provides in-depth understanding of the fluctuating economic conditions impacting the real estate market and how investors and industry players could take advantage of available opportunities.
There are still some things we need to interrogate and change in our policy environment to make portfolio investments to come. And my recommendation is this, of course, the panelists will also deal with this issue, that we need to fix the exchange rate officially within a defined band. In terms of looking forward, you must interrogate your strategic plan, if you have one. Then relentlessly re-engineer your business processes and get involved with and strengthen sector advocacy.
We call it a very delicate balancing act.
A panel of experts and guests, including the chairman of Odua Investment Company Limited, Bimbo Ashiru, and the chairman, Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Abike Dabiri Erewa, who participated virtually, shared their views on issues presented and strategies to drive growth of the real estate.
By investing in real estate in Nigeria, even as it is now, it's not charity. It's a good investment, and we keep encouraging them to do that. And on our part, what we're trying to do as a commission is also encourage them with mortgage. So we're working with the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria to say, for the diaspora, you can get a 50 million mortgage loan. So you can, for instance, buy a Wema board house.
As we embark on this journey together, let us remember the importance of collaboration and knowledge sharing by fostering an environment of innovation and cooperation. We can collectively navigate the challenges ahead and unlock the full potential of real estate market.
We also have to start thinking about projects. They may be huge, but we also have to start thinking about them is to take it in piecemeal.
We have about 22 million housing deficit like that. But when you look at it critically, they are from the bottom down. And unless you change your laws, you change your ways, you change your innovation, that will remain the same for a long time to come.
With so much said about the volatility and opportunities in the real estate sector, how is Wema Board ready to champion the cause of shaping these opinions into solutions?
Wema Board is ready to champion that cause, including relating with state governments, federal government agencies, and coming out of this meeting, that will be our next steps, and it will be very fast.
I'm sure through channels and some other media, government will also feel our pulse. We hear what we are saying, we hear our cry, that a disaster has to be declared in the housing sector.
I had a representative of Knight Frank, the most consistent real estate services.
One of the highlights of the event is the recognition and presentation of awards to some organizations who have made significant impact and contribution to the growth of the real estate industry.
Okay, that's the entire...
Whether it's FDI or FPI, that's direct investment or portfolio investment, Nigeria is working on all fronts to attract foreign investors and foreign capital into the country. So, well, apart from that real estate, we're going to discuss more about real estate at 1 p.m. So you want to join me for Business Incorporated to see about real estate funding and perhaps opportunities right there. Housing is one of the basic needs of life, so not just in Nigeria, everywhere. So perhaps it's a good platform to attract those investments. But join me 1 p.m. for Business Incorporated, and we'll do that. Now, talking about FBI, FDI, let's talk about that this morning. And joining me to discuss that is Mr. Sonny Ofeye. He's the Executive Assistant on External Relations and Diaspora Affairs to the Delta State Governor. Good morning, Mr. Ofeye, and thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we're talking a lot about FPI, FDI. We saw the UK, the trade mission, were here yesterday, and they're trying to, they're promising us that some of those big brands, mostly elite brands, are coming to set up shop here. And I'm saying that's just like FPI, because, I mean, they're just here to sell. You know, we need people who would come and invest in the soil, who would have manufacturing and all of that. And then we also have Wema Board, talking about the real estate. We saw the diaspora boss, NITCOM boss right there. Yeah. You know, talking about how to attract those foreign investors and funds into the country. But at a time when the Naira is falling, we don't know what we're going to wake up to the next day, in spite of the efforts of the government, in spite of pronunciation or directive. at a time when we see trucks of food being hijacked, you understand, by hungry Nigerians. How easy is this job? I mean, you people are the one there. You are for the Delta State government, but obviously concerning Nigeria. How easy or difficult is it for you to sell Nigeria at this time?
Well, it is both easy and difficult because Nigeria is the largest economy in Africa with a huge population of about 200 million. And for any economic advantage, you need the numbers. In the last 3 weeks, I've been to 9 cities and 4 countries in Europe. Even though the numbers are not favoring Nigeria in terms of attracting foreign direct investment into the country, there is still this enthusiasm among European investors to come. And that is what even the British government have seen by bringing in their investors. So But
do they want to come to sell? Or they want to come to stay?
I really don't know what they're doing, but what I know is
the people you are talking to.
Yes, we're not coming to sell. We've been able to attract investment. I was in Stockholm. We're talking currently with the Swedish Export Credit Bank. They're ready to put in investment in our oil and gas sector. So we're looking at a 20,000 barrel production of crude oil in Baramatu Kingdom, which is a very ideal location for any kind of investment in the oil and gas industry. You know, it's just 1 kilometer away from Chevron facility, and then it's 2 kilometers into the Atlantic Ocean. And then we have 2 major manifolds, the crude oil manifold and the gas manifold right there. And then, of course, because it's close to the sea, vessels can come in no matter how deep, how the height of their draft. And we're also looking at, I was in Milan, there are Italian investors who want to come in and set up a mega city. So it's going to be a city within a city. We know that power is a problem in this country. We know that infrastructure is a problem in this country. But the technology they're bringing in will use hydro capacity to be able to, with solar, to be able to generate power. And what they're doing now is that they want to look into building a minimum of 2,500 homes, so it will have a police station and all that, and they have earmarked. The bank is ready to finance them. $395 million in this investment. Now, we also have, I was also in in Germany, where we have a German agro-tractor company that is also coming to Delta State to set up their assembly plant. And this is also attracting over 200 million. So when I got this appointment, I told my boss, my governor, that by the end of 2024, I will attract a minimum of $1 billion into our economy. And we are already...
By the end of 2024,
yes,
we're in 2024.
No, you can hold me responsible. Bring me here in December.
So what should we see, by 2024 to be sure that, your promise has been kept? By the end of 2020, do we see the physical structure?
The offtake of, for instance, the tractor project, according to even the investors' timeline, will even kick off from June. That's the reason I'm here. I had a meeting with my governor 2 days ago. Yesterday, I had a meeting with the secretary to the government where I put all these things on the table. I am going back by the weekend to bring all of them into Delta State to do feasibility study. The funds are already available to do a sort of like to look at the location to see which of the location will meet the standard. Now, the beauty of it is that we have a forest crisis in this country. Most of the investors are even leaving. For instance, Unilever is gone, and that's a Dutch company. And P&G is also going. That's a UK company. And Equinor is leaving. That's a Norwegian company. And these 3 countries are European countries. So it's supposed to be a challenge for people like us who are selling Delta State, selling Nigeria to European investors. However, the government of Europe, in order to mitigate in order to challenge the Chinese influence into the African economy, are also using credit lines to support their multinational companies to go out there, particularly to third world countries where Nigeria falls into and do business. Now, the reason why my governor is focusing on infrastructural development in Delta State, because this is the critical sector you have to look into. In the first 100 days in office, he's gave out a huge contract
okay, so
to
let's not get political.
You know? No, it's not political. This is the reality on the ground.
Let me ask.
That's why I can speak about investments. That's why I can tell the world that they can come to Delta State.
All right. So we've seen in a lot of situations in the country where we see foreign investors come into the country. We've seen some companies operating in the country. But it seems the government missed out some fine lines that would challenge those companies to maximize the benefit to the people. For instance, the quota of employment, to ensure that the locals are given priority. Repatriation of funds. These are issues that even though we have multinationals in the country, they've not been able, or we have not been able to maximize the benefits from them.
Well, that is why at the beginning of every roundtable discussion when investors are coming in, community relationship with those investors is critical to peace and security of that investment. Because as a government, apart from providing the enabling environment, your emphasis should be that you secure those investments and then you guarantee the investment in a way that the investor will be able to repatriate their funds. Look at what is happening in the aviation industry. I flew into this country with Air France. It was practically empty. And a time will come if we don't deal with the issue of the aviation fund that the CBN has not been, their own money that they've not been able to repatriate.
But we are working on that.
For how long are we going to work on that when the Naira is on a free fall? Now you cannot even rely, that's one of the disadvantages when you want to come in as an investor. There's no Forex, the Naira, it's not predictable, and there is nobody in the government at the national level that is coming to breathe some air of confidence into the economy. And that is sad. So what we need to do now is to look back, go back to the drawing board, look at our true potential in the way of our natural resources, our human capital development, and use that as a tool to sell ourselves. Look at our solid mineral, for instance. Nobody's even talking about exploiting the potential that we have in that area. Look at our coastline, for instance. We hold the highest coastline among the whole of the sub-Saharan African country within the Gulf of Guinea. We are not taking advantage of the potential that can come in from blue economy. The world is moving from fossil fuel to renewables, and there are many investments within this value chain that we can tap into and use it to not only bring in technological education for our people, and also create jobs and therefore increase our internally generated revenue. I heard you talk about capital importation. Critical in this time of our economic challenges. So what I think we should do now, particularly at the national level, is to ensure that every ministry begin to look into the potential of each of the ministry. And by the time we combine them together, we can still get our place on the global economic stand, which I am very optimistic about. That's why I am doing what I am doing.
Okay, so you've given us a challenge that by the end of this year, we can call you back and we would see pictures and evidence,
Yes.
of all those mouth-watering investments
I want to reiterate it, and thank God enough, I am dealing with somebody who is ready to accept all of this, because I can bring all of that, but if my governor is not interested in that, it will not fly. I am going back now extraordinarily confident that these investors will come in, because I'm from Delta State. I am a diaspora. I've lived in the country.
Nigeria, so bring them to Lagos.
Yes. No, from there, one thing I must make clear is that all of the investment coming to Delta State are not serving Deltans alone. They're using Delta State as a hub, not only for Nigeria, but for sub-Saharan Africa.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Mr. Sonny Ofeke, the Executive Assistant on External Relations and Diaspora Affairs to the Delta State Governor.
So thank you very much. Thank you. Have a nice day.
All right, so very interesting there. We hope all of that come to pass. Employment and capital importation would be well boosted, even if it's just in Delta State, it will spread to other parts. Let's do a little bit of market now before we hand over. Yesterday was a negative market for the NGX. We see it down again, 0.12%. Equities cap also down. But I'd like to focus on the fixed income market. We haven't talked about that bond that happened 2 days ago. There you have it for the federal government bonds. They had 45 deals worth 32.59%. And we see that the February 2034 security was most favored right there, 2034 right there. But let's talk to Ifeoma Onyejekwe now. Ifeoma, good morning. I've been looking forward to this conversation because of that auction that took place 2 days ago, and the longest of that was a 1 year. I was made to expect that we would have more foreigners participate in that because foreigners would like the short-term securities, and then we see it was 364, 90 days and all of that. How was it? How much of foreign participation did we have?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. So yes, the bond auction a few days ago was very, very interesting. And we didn't have as much foreign participation as expected because it was a combination of low liquidity as well as rate competition. So we can see that inflation is at a 28-year high of 29.9%. And the interest rate, when it also factor in currency devaluation, the market players, they were not really comfortable locking in, their investments for such a long time because the longer tenure was offered at 19%, same as the 1 year treasury bill. So it really didn't make sense for investors to go and lock in 5-7 years at that rate. Meanwhile, you can also get a 1 year bill at the same rate. So a combination of low liquidity in the market as well as top rate expectation caused the GMO to struggle to raise that 2.25 trillion in March.
Talk to us about the yields. I think it was between 17 and 17.5. How was that accepted? The other one for the upper week was up to 19%.
Yes, so we saw that the subscription as well as allocation was way more than offered. What was offered at the previous auction was 205 billion. Meanwhile, over 1 trillion was allocated. And yes, like I said before, it makes much more sense for an investor to get in as much high rate as possible than to lock in their investment for longer term. But we have the MPC coming up next week, and our market also expects the CBN to raise rates to more than 200 to 300 basis points. So if that happens, you will see that the fixed income space will increase when it comes to it.
Yeah, but there's always a time lag. So we have MPC on Monday and Tuesday. We expect to get the decision announced on Tuesday. How soon do you see this sipping into the market, maybe gaining more investors' confidence?
Yeah, when it comes to the MPC meeting at the end of the month, so the next auction, we will surely see, supposing that they go ahead to raise rates, we'll see an influx of more investment next month at the next auction. So we just have to wait because people are more cautious. It's better for you to wait and then invest at higher rates rather than for you to lock in your investment and see that next auction, the stock rates are much higher than you expect.
All right. When is the next auction, Ifeoma, so we can get ready for it?
It normally takes the third week of a month. So we're expecting the third week of month of March.
All right. Thank you so much, Ifeoma Onyejekwe from UBA Group. Thank you for your time this morning. All right, Chamberlain, Maokwe, and Ayo, I asked that last question for you so you can get your funds ready to get into the market, the fixed income market. It's a safe market, so you can get ready to go into the market and make some money from there. Back to you guys.
The manufacturers, had the opportunities to talk about their challenges, ranging from high cost of gas, high import duties on their spare parts. They also talked about the issue of smuggling of cement, across our borders that is creating scarcity, and where there is scarcity, there could be price increase. Government noted the challenges and discussed each and every one of them extensively, and we agree that the Honorable Minister for Trade, Industry and Investment will seek some remedies from His Excellency Mr. President. For the cement manufacturers, they have agreed to have their cement price nationwide to between 7,000 to 8,000 naira per 50 kg bag of cement, depending on the locations
commitment of the manufacturers to enforce compliance within the sector is also very laudable. It will be the first time that the manufacturers will be saying that they will go and foresee and manage compliance within their distributorship network. I think it's very laudable. On the issue of smuggling, yes, we've actually seen an escalation of smuggling, and we engaged with the NSA, who is committed and also came up with his own program to tackle smuggling. I'm sure we'll be hearing from the NSA very soon on this.
All right, we've got Prince David Iweta joining us here this morning. He's the National Chairman, Cement Producers Association of Nigeria, talking about lowering this cost of cement. And as it is at the moment, we've seen that meeting that held. So maybe you should talk to us about how that agreement came about, and was everybody on the same page? Is that what we're going to see moving forward now?
Yes, I think the situation as presented by the Honorable Minister was the position of all stakeholders at that meeting, and it is expected to be followed to its logical conclusion. But it is the market and the people that will react, not to the pronouncement as agreed by those of us that were in the meeting. Because about 4 or 5 days after the meeting, from the feelers from the field, the price of cement is yet to come down. As at yesterday, the price went up from 11,500 that we bought in Sapele Axis to 12,000 as at today. And so we think that there need to be more in-depth consideration for a future proper solution than asking just 3 persons to dictate the destiny of a major commodity as cement in a country as large as Nigeria, with only 3 producers currently. Since the project or program, which is called the Backward Integration Policy, that was put in place by the administration of the late President Yaradua, when he considered 6 companies from each of the 6 geopolitical zones to be encouraged by granting cement import licenses to crash the price of cement from 2,000 it was at that time to 1,000 naira per bag. And I think the government today is expected to do more, looking at the importance of cement being a major commodity for the 3 basic necessities of man, which is food, clothes, and shelter. Cement as shelter, for shelter, provision, is not just about the housing. The quantum of employment that cement attracts in a developing economy like Nigeria, when you look at the infrastructure development, when you look at the housing, where we have over 28 million housing deficits in our country, for every apartment that you build as house, you require about 7 professionals or different artisans getting involved, from the architect to the construction, the civil engineer, to the mason, to the carpenter, to the plumber, to the electrician, to the painter, up to the laborers that carries blocks and mason, for the mason to work. These are the quantum. So as it is, we are looking at solution in helping the economy. Yes, at that meeting, one of the takeaway that the Minister for Industry, Trade and Investment brought in as in support with the Cement Producers Association of Nigeria is to encourage 6 more players into the cement manufacturing space like it was during the backward integration of late President Yaradua was scuttled.
Why 6 more players? Are the players there not enough?
No. The players there cannot meet the demand. Today, we could say we're having about 30 to 40 million metric tons of cement being supplied to the market, under 40 million metric tons. But our position should be double that volume.
Yeah, but why 6?
Fine. Now,
why not more?
Good. Now, it ought to be more, even up to 15, 20, as much as 50, because as we speak, economy with lesser population than Nigeria in terms of Egypt, South Africa. Egypt have 51 cement factories.
How many do we have?
We have just 3.
How many players?
The players are 3.
Wait,
Okay?
are you saying major players or?
They are only the 3 names are currently Dangote, Lafarge, and Boa. Okay? But as it were, it ought to have been Dangote, Lafarge, Boa, Madewell, Reagan, Naka, Minaj, Lababidi, Gateway. These were companies that the then government of Yaradua gave licenses to import 500,000 metric tons of cement each. And this was scuttled by one of us, who is a big player, that this should not work.
What about Ibeto?
But Ibeto was also greatly affected. It came before this regime. And then Boa, because he had what was called a floating cement terminal, where they wrote a petition to the Ministry of Finance to stop all 6 that were given licenses by Yaradua's government, by the then engineer Charles Ugu, to ensure that the price comes down. Not just the license, there is an intention that the government also applied to the mining cadastral ministry, that is the Ministry of Mines, that all these 6 be granted these licenses, so that when you finish your cement import, you go to limestone exploration and be producing locally. Out of these, it was only Boa that survived the attack.
Who was attacking who?
Yes, some group wanted to have it all, but thank God, adding to Lafarge and Dangote is Boa, and that's why you see a little bit of breathing by the people. So the government should consider cement as very critical, owing to some of the factors I analyzed. Just like in the days of the General Yakubu Gowon, in the year 1977, there was what was called Cement Armada, where so many cement vessels came into this country, waiting to bet and discharge their cargo across the Nigerian ports.
Well, we've since heard the Minister of Housing threaten cement manufacturers that if something is not urgently done, he's going to prevail on the president to see how they can open the borders to bring in more cement, import cement into the country. Now, some people would say we don't know how that is going to work, because part of the problem we're currently facing, and which cement manufacturers also seem to be blaming their the increase in the prices on, is this forex scarcity. We talked about how the price of production inputs are going up. Gas, for instance, is a problem, etc. When we already have a situation where forex is scarce, is this really a wise idea to say, you know what, use the current forex that is scarce to go and look for cement outside of Nigeria? How is that going to work when we see the volatility that we're currently experiencing with our foreign exchange?
Yes, 2 things are involved. About the year 1984, the government at that time issued or introduced what was called import license non-valid for foreign exchange. And if today, some of the policies that were put in place by the past administration of the Central Bank of Nigeria, that come January 2023, every commercial bank should source their own FX. And that didn't happen. Today, every bank is lazy as red collectors. They are not looking at encouraging exportable product finance to generate their own FX, just as state governors going to collecting allocation every month. If the banks are doing what is called real banking and going into exploring the natural resources that we have for export, all of this will not rise. But today, the banks are failing in their responsibility in funding what ought to be funded that should provide the necessary product for export. Today, we are talking about import. Nobody's talking about export. Who talks about export? It's not government.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm trying to bring it down now. We're not exporting cement. As a matter of fact, you say that the cement we're currently producing in the country is not enough. And that's what is causing scarcity, thereby driving prices up. And it's even more pertinent because this is the dry season where a lot of construction is happening. And we know that usually during the dry season, the price of cement goes up. It is very difficult to come by. I mean, the competition to get it from the manufacturers is also quite high. So we're saying this in this season, but we do not know what will happen when the rains eventually come. Do you think that, as you know, as someone who's been in this business for so long, there will be changes in the rainy season?
Yes, practically there is always a demand push and demand drop when the season comes in this way.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as we're concerned, in Nigeria, the commodity price that has gone up hardly comes down. It is not the availability now, it's the price. Today, Nigeria ought to have double the current capacity of cement in the country as a delivery to the country. But where you have few chasing, a lot of consumers, you have this upward trend in price. And then annually, there is a growth rate for cement delivery into a country. It might go between about 3 to 5% increase, depending on the country capacity of growth. But Nigeria, I can tell you, if the prices of cement were sustained as it were by the vision of the government of Yaradua, today there will be more development and the appetite for developers to consume cement will be high. And other variables as building materials are dependent on the direction and movement of cement price. If prices of cement is going up, people will slow down, or some of them will even leave their construction site because of the price of cement that has gone up. And then when you come in at rainy season, there is not much you can do because of the weather. And so Nigeria, as it were, ought to be consuming more than what we are consuming. But because of the apparent high cost of cement, the appetite to build has dropped, and then the deficit in housing is increasing.
You are recommending that the borders be open and these people be given licenses. You didn't quite answer what you think will happen if people are to source, because you've said the banks are not exactly living up to expectations. So where precisely, or how do you think that when people source their forex by themselves at costs that could be prohibitive, how do you think it is going to eventually affect the landing cost of cement at our borders and affect the internal prices which you're hoping to crash?
Good. Right now, if you give up to 10 players, for example, cement import license, they have their strategy. I could bring in my cement and not visit the central bank for letters of credit. If I bring my product and I decide to plow it back into a short gestation period business to produce because I have the naira on ground and I have deferred credit from suppliers of the cement, I will obviously have liquidity of naira to produce commodity and export. and be able to turn around and provide my own foreign exchange needs. Today, there are so much naira awash in the country that are not going into the real sector as investment. So people are quick to convert their naira to dollars and then do nothing. So we are lazy as it were at the moment. The banks are, and some of them who have amassed naira, go to the FX market, purchase the dollar for keep because of future rise in price of the dollar. So most persons right now is dollar. And there are entrepreneurs that have migrated from businesses that have moved into politics. Because today in Nigeria, the only surviving and thriving business is politics and crime. So if the government says, okay, we are bringing in more players to bring in the product, not just for hard work purpose, will you have a backward integration to plow back that which government has given you? Because the reason why the government of Yar'Adua gave license was for you to import, have a market share, go backward integration, to have the kind of funding window that local or international finance institution will know that you're already in the market of cement, import, you move into producing locally, and then you have a presence, and you cannot just import and stop without bringing in what you have produced from the factory.
Well, we do get your point about, you know, the challenges businesses are going through in the country, but I mean, we cannot say that the only surviving business is politics and crime. If anybody wants to do crime, you end up in jail, period. So that's the way it is, but we understand the point you're trying to make. Let's bring in Ayo. He's got questions for you as well.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Well, you know, it's interesting, Mr. Iweta, that you're talking about the challenges of businesses in Nigeria and all. And I know that you have spaded this question that I want to ask, but if you will be very, very specific, speaking specifically to local production of cement, what are the challenges that is informing this increasing price? Because there are those who assume that, look, if we are producing within the country, it should be a little cheaper than normal. Are there imported components that go into cement manufacturing in Nigeria or cement production in Nigeria that is driving the cost of the commodity up?
Yes, at the meeting that was held by the three current manufacturers, which was Dangote, Lafarge, and Boa, they all came up with the same challenge of the high cost of energy. That the cost of energy have moved from about 30-40% to 60% because they depend solely or mainly on gas. And the Nigerian gas companies, they provide or give them price on the pro rata of dollar. So when they bought raw material at about 400 naira, now is about 600 naira, based on the upward trend of the naira and dollar rate. Then the other problem that was adduced was the issue of gypsum, which is 5% content of raw material. There is gypsum available in Nigeria, but the quality is not as good enough. So they all rely on import of gypsum. And that is requiring dollar to import. And then they also talk about the cost of mining equipment. The spare parts they buy from time to time, they import. And that is also a cost based on the dollar upward trend that affects their local cost of production. But that said, I can say here for sure that so many cement manufacturers have been in the industry for many years, and they should also create an alternative avenue in developing products that they could export to be able to generate their own dollar. And if there are more players in the market, that competition will try to force down the price of cement. Where there are few suppliers and many buyers, government is also government is at the mercy of very few manufacturers, such like holding government in jugular, that you don't have an option. But I can tell you, if government is proactive, if government is determined to ensure that the price comes down, they will issue licenses for people that have the capacity to ensure they don't visit the Central Bank of Nigeria to bring in the product. Prior to this time, when the past government, the administration of CBN, put in 43 items and made cement as #1, not having access to the official exchange rate to import cement, there is the possibility of us even importing. But there is a caveat which some of the people that do not want cement price to come down, encouraging the Ministry of Finance at that time to move the duty from 10% to 55% as it is currently. So it is a duty also that will create the high price for cement if you import. But today, for government to encourage that there is a cement price low level, there should be a zero duty at this time. In the next 1 year, 5%. In another year, 10%. A 3-year program. So that year on year, the cement price rising will not be seen. And government should monitor very closely by creating a permanent or perennial solution, by giving a 3-year program, monitoring local players such that every 3 years they introduce 6 players as they can control. So that the inflow of cement will not also distort the local manufacturers.
Well, just one more thing from me. We've just talked about the local manufacturers now, that there are not so many. And so naturally, there would also be some fears in some quarters that it's the deliberate plan of the few to come together and insist, this is the way, this is how much we're going to sell this thing. So some kind of oligarchy is created. That's something that the federal government or any government that would not want to agree with. So consequently, they said, look, if you do not reduce the costs, then they're going to have to do something and open the borders for importation. Now, this plan that you have talked about now, these initiatives that you're suggesting, especially the intervention of government, how long do you think it'll last? Because at the end of the day, you're running a business and government is also running a nation.
Yes, like you rightly said, the government and the private sector, they are both drivers of every economy. As you would agree with me, the size of Nigerian economy is about $400 billion. And if you look at the annual budget of Nigerian government, it goes within the region of 20 to 30% of the size of the economy. So the private sector is a principal and major driver of every economy. So the government should, as a matter of importance, take into confidence the role, the activities of the private sector, giving them that liberty, allowing them to be on the driver's seat on aspects that will drive the economy, while they concentrate in the area of policy and administration.
But just one more thing. For those who are wondering, Mr. Iweta, is there an option to cement? One. And perhaps in the same vein, are there options to those components of cement production that are imported that could be sourced within the country?
Yes, one of the local alternatives is building your houses with bricks. In several economies, bricks is a direct alternative, but they have to be burnt bricks. And I remember some years back, in the early years of Olusegun Obasanjo's government, when they made a delegation to India, I remember Mrs. Is it Modupe Adelaja? You know, the daughter of the late Ibrahim Adesoya. She was in charge of SMIDA, or one of those agencies of government. And she was in that delegation. And those persons in the real estate in those countries was advising the government of Nigeria to embark on developing bricks as an alternative to building houses in Nigeria, as an alternative to cement. But I can tell you, one of the players, as of today, was in the delegation and did advise or shun down that very officer of government that, do you want to destroy my business? Why would such kind of proposal be made such that bricks should not be developed? Should that be, I can assure you that that will go as an alternative to cement. And if persons were encouraged to develop bricks into that industry, by today, there are alternatives, because bricks has its own quality, you know, in housing development. So that's one option that could be looked into if the government decides to be holistic in trying to tackle the perennial, you know, price increase in cement.
All right, we'll look and hope that all of this eventually is sorted moving forward. So thank you for coming on this morning, Prince David Iweta. Well, that is the show today. We do thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain, so have a very good weekend.
Yes, but make sure you watch Hard Copy tonight at 8:30 p.m. Thank you for being great company throughout the week. I'm Mangokwe Ogun Yusuf.
And I'm Aya Makinde. Drink a lot of water today. Have a wonderful one.